Hey everyone, welcome back to Tactical Magic. This is Molly Mandelberg, your host, and I'm really excited for the guest that I have for you today. I would say of all the leaders and entrepreneurs that I've met, this guest brings more fun and aliveness than almost anyone else I've ever seen speak or anyone else I've ever had the pleasure of networking and interacting with. So super excited for this episode. Hang tight. We'll be right back. It's not just about mastering technology. It's not just about brand or messaging. It's not just about making more money. It's about showing up in a big way so your people can find you. This is about bringing your most wild and authentic self into the hustle and grind. Welcome to Tactical Magic, a business strategies podcast for the warrior goddess entrepreneur. All right. Marli Williams is a master facilitator, leadership trainer, joy instigator, and community strategist who first fell in love with transformational leadership as a camp counselor. 2 degrees and 15 years of facilitation training later, Marli decided to give herself permission to be the professional camp counselor she knew she was born to be. She's the founder of the Magnetic Leader Collective, where she trains leaders and speakers to connect powerfully with their audience through creating epic and engaging meetups, workshops, and events. Her mission is to empower, inspire, and motivate leaders to cultivate confidence and create transformational experiences that change people's lives. When she's not training leaders and speaking on big stages in person and virtually, you can find her running Camp Yes, an adult summer camp for women, which we will definitely talk about later. Welcome to the show, Marli.
Woo! Thank you so much. I'm stoked to be here.
Yeah, I'm stoked to have you here. So you have a very special and unique vantage point on leadership and how it's an opportunity for play and fun and how engagement can be so much more dynamic than most people allow it to be. Will you just tell us a little bit more about that?
So good. So true. I oftentimes think that we have been taught, or there's this illusion that leadership is being in the front of the room, having all of the answers, being that sage on the stage who's just talking at people, where it's like, I have something to say, listen up, team, right? And when I think about transformational leadership, it's really about the ability to co-create with your audience and to not just deliver a transactional presentation, but to create a transformational experience. A transaction is one-dimensional. Transformation is multi-dimensional, right? There's all of these things happening, all of these people, and when I think about creating experiences with people in the moment, I'm like, all of these people in this moment in time will never, ever happen again in this way, ever again. So the magic in that, and I know that you're connected to that and your audiences too, right? This moment in time is so unique and so special. And that's why probably, I've never given the same talk more than once, because every audience is different, every moment is different. But what that requires as a leader is trust. Trust in yourself, trust in your audience, and trust that there's something coming to you, and that there's so much that happens, there's so much magic that happens in that moment. And when I think about being a transformational leader, it's how much can I trust myself in the message that I have to share? But also, when I say trust my audience, it's really about creating opportunities for them to be engaged in that experience and not just being a passive participant. But it's I'm asking them questions or turning to a neighbor or virtually doing breakout rooms. And it's taking the pressure actually off of myself and saying, I don't have the answers, you do, first of all. And my only job is to help you remember that and to tune in to your own innate knowledge and wisdom. And so that's what I love, this idea of being kind of this joy instigator or confidence catalyst. The idea of a catalyst is I'm just reminding you of something that you've forgotten for a little while. And so that's kind of my unique lens and take on what it means to be a transformational leader instead of a transactional one.
I love that. And I love that term catalyst in that way too, because a catalyst doesn't just remind, it's actually like you speed up the process of them getting to where they're going. Because a
Yeah.
catalyst, yeah, makes the chemical
Yeah.
reaction
It's
occur
like
faster, which is like,
amplifying that.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
that's really awesome. So tell us more about how you went from camp counselor to what you're doing now, because I know that it was probably a meandering path.
It definitely was. I know. I think it's funny that I'm like, okay, so when I was 19 years old, I was a camp counselor, and it took me 2 degrees and 15 years of experience later to become a professional camp counselor. And it's like sometimes I work with a lot of people who are like, what's my purpose? Like, what am I here for? Like, where did it go? And it feels like it's something that you have to find. And usually it's the thing that's like so close you can't even see it. You're like, of course, this is what I'm here to do. Um, so when I was 19 years old, actually, I went on a 50-day outward bound course. So I spent 2 months in the woods with a group of strangers I didn't know, and I went to go find myself and find my purpose and find my path. And on that course, we had a 3-day solo. And I said, my mission on this course and in my life is to help people realize their full potential. When I was 19, that's what I wrote. I had no idea probably at the time what that meant, what that was going to look like, but that has honestly been my mission ever since. I actually transferred schools my junior year of college to study and major in outdoor education. So I tell people like, that's why I'm a professional. I'm like, I have a degree in this stuff. And I was a wilderness guide for about 5 years, leading rafting trips and climbing trips and 21-day backpacking trips. But my mission with the outdoor education piece was using the outdoors as a means for personal growth and transformation. So there's this kind of distinction of outdoor recreation and outdoor education. Mm-hmm. And that the recreation is like, let's go outside and have a good time, which is great. But like, let's go outside and like go deep of like and I'm really big into using metaphors. You're climbing to the top of the mountain and you don't make it to the top. Something happens, so what do you make that mean? What happens in your life when you go after something that you want and it doesn't work out? What do you make that mean? So there's a big kind of the idea of the transference of learning of like, I would always say as a wilderness guide, if what we did out here does not make you a better person back in your life, I have failed you. Meaning like it's one thing to be this type of way out here, but it's like the ability to communicate more powerfully, to lead more powerfully, to understand yourself in these ways and apply that and integrate that into your life. That is such a huge part, I think, of transformational learning is like, okay, you can go to this epic event or retreat, but what happens when you leave is the moment where if, does it stick? Does it work? What do you help? How do you help people integrate that knowledge and wisdom so that their life is actually different when they come back into it? And so I was a wilderness guide, and then I decided to go back and get my master's degree in education. And my goal at that point in time was to run a outdoor program at a college, at a university. And so to combine master's in education with my bachelor's in outdoor education. And what happened there was I started an outdoor orientation program for incoming freshmen to cultivate confidence and community as they entered in this new chapter of their life. I've really always been into like rites of passage types of experiences of like in life, in our culture, we do not honor transition, like honor giving people time to like think about, okay, I'm leaving the nest and leaving this home environment I've been in my whole life. I'm not in that. Now what? Like, who do I want to be as I enter in this new chapter of my life? So I've always loved creating experiences in those moments of transition for people. Long story short, I created this program, put everything I had into it. I ran the program on the side of my full-time job at the university, which I was essentially like an academic advisor for first-generation college students. And they ended up hiring someone else to run the program I started. And I was heartbroken. I was devastated. It was like, it crushed my sense of self, my sense of purpose. Like I thought that this was my path. Like I thought this was it. And I realized the universe, it was a gift. Ultimately, it's like hard to see those, like when that door closes, like I know that like the window's open, you're like, what the fuck, the window's like, but that door closed and that was my door, right? But it's like clearly it wasn't, because But that is what really led me on the path of entrepreneurship. I'm like, okay, never will I ever create something that can get taken away from me like that, like create a program.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, if I can do it here, I can do it anywhere. So then I started putting on my own events and my own workshops and my own retreats and coaching people and speaking while I was in my full-time job. So my final year in my job, I generated about $10,000 like on the side, doing all these different kind of things, just experimenting, testing things out, giving it a go and being like, can I really? And actually making money doing it on the side gave me the confidence to like put in my letter of resignation saying like, all right, I'm going to go out on my own. And I actually, like a month before leaving, got offered a faculty position in the leadership studies department. And it felt like this like moment where it was a little test from the universe.
Yeah.
Because the only reason I remember thinking through this whole thing of making this decision, the only reason I would take this job was out of fear that I couldn't do it on my own. So I turned it down. And I like had to turn down a leadership studies faculty position to my mentor. And like I walked into her office, like she thought that I was going to accept the job. She's like, and this, and like started going the paperwork, and like I have to pause you for a moment, and I actually have decided to not take the position. Funny story about that is a year later they hired me to come back and give a talk to their students, like in their leadership studies program, for the same amount of money in one day as I would have made in like a whole quarter. So stick to your guns, everybody.
Stick to your guns and listen to that knowing. We don't make decisions based on fear.
And yeah, exactly. The only reason I was going to do that was out of fear. And I was like, I have to just prove to myself that I had to be all in. I was like, I'm going to freaking do this. And I joined a mastermind, had a coach, like booked some speaking engagements, and I actually it was crazy. Like to think about that now, I made $10,000 in my first month working for myself, with between coaching clients and a speaking engagement. And it was just like, to me, it felt like the universe just giving me like a giant high five, like you freaking did it, you know? But it was like, I tell this to people, like, really ask yourself, are you all in? I think a lot of people are like, a little halfway in, a little toe dip, a little, I don't know. Like universe doesn't like, I don't know. Universe loves like, let's go. We're gonna do this. So,
and responds to that demand. That is a demand.
And it's an energy.
Going there. Yeah.
You're like a force to be reckoned with. You're like, I am freaking doing this. And I'm gonna do whatever it takes. And what support do I need in order to be successful? I like this quote, like this idea of how can I make success inevitable? Like, what are the systems? What is the support that I need to make that happen? So that was ended 2015. So I've been a full-time entrepreneur and coach, speaker since then. So it's been like 6 years now. It's just crazy.
We're like on the same timeline pretty much. That's around when my business was all in and I quit my side job back then too. Yeah. I also had the same experience where a multi-million-dollar organization wanted to hire me to do what I did for my business. And I really struggled to say no, but I knew that if I said yes, I would be giving up on my business and I would be doing it out of the fear that I couldn't make it on my own. And it was like 3 months after that I had my first $10,000 month. So
see,
the universe responds to your yes, your big, strong yes. We'll get to that in a moment.
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm talking about. I'm like, boom, that's what it's about.
Yep, yes.
Oh, good.
Okay, I do want to talk about Camp Yes, but I also just want to highlight some of the things you said, because as you were talking about like the transformation of leadership and education outdoors versus recreation outdoors, I was imagining those like inspirational posters that they put on the wall and how there's like somebody climbing a mountain and here's the inspirational quote. It's like actually climbing into that experience and being in nature and being facilitated in such a way that you are encouraged to get the deeper meaning, because deeper meaning is happening in our lives all the time. And if we're not guided to, or we're not inspired to focus on it, those silver linings, those greater lessons, the learning that our life is here to teach us can be lost. And so one of the beautiful things of being in nature and being facilitated in general is that you're encouraged to look at what is the lesson I'm here to learn? Why is this occurring in my life right now? How do I want it to be instead? And who do I actually want to be in my life? And how do I get from here to there? What do I need to overcome or transform or look at so that I can get there? I did a leadership retreat a friend of mine led in the boundary waters of northern Minnesota in a canoe. It was 5 days in a canoe, women's leadership retreat. And it was exhausting and trying. And there were so many moments that like triggered us and things happened. And the entire time we were brought back into community and into communication to navigate what we were going through. And that was absolutely life-changing, because not only was it a difficult experience that we overcame in many different facets, but it was also guided with the intention of, you're going to leave here a grander version of yourself because you're willing to step into those hard moments. And most people resist hard moments. They don't step into them. So there's like so much beauty and power. And thank you for sharing your whole story, because as entrepreneurs who are mostly out there listening to this podcast, if you're not an entrepreneur out there, that's totally okay. You might be at some point, and you might not, and that's okay too. But the path is winding and long. And sometimes you think you're going one direction and the path disappears and you have to go another way. You have to pivot or turn around, see where you've come from, make a different choice. It doesn't necessarily look like I graduated college and knew what I was supposed to be and went and did that. You did know what you were supposed to be. It just didn't look how you thought it was going to look. But I think that willingness to keep stepping forward, even if we can't see exactly what that next step is, and to reach out and get support or get mentorship or get more education or certified or whatever, that willingness to take a leap of faith and to keep moving forward is how you find that alignment, how you find that deep sense of purpose. And that's how it happened for you. And that's how it happened for me. And I didn't know I would get to where I'm at now. And I still don't know what the next version of me is going to be, but I've built up this sort of comfort level of being uncomfortable and not knowing, and that continuing to discover and that continuing to question and that willingness to move forward regardless of knowing the end point, that resilience is what allows us to get to where we want to go. I also want to back up for a second, because I know there's a lot of people out there who maybe haven't led their first workshop yet, who maybe are scared to get on stage, who they're hearing that they can't just go and teach a workshop and speak from stage. Now they have to do something else. Can you just unpack a couple ideas of how to engage people? I know you mentioned putting people in partner shares or asking them to talk to their partner. Can you give a few more examples of what that engagement, aliveness, fun stuff is?
Of course. Happy to. I love it. So if you are out there, if you're wanting to lead events, workshops, it's actually, I find facilitation is easier than speaking. Because speaking, you're like, what am I going to say for an hour? And I'm like, as a facilitator, I'm like, what is the experience that I want to create for them in this hour? It's not about what do I want to say.
Yeah.
What is the experience I want to create? And one is starting, like, begin with the end in mind. How do you want people to feel when you walk off that stage? Because I guarantee this. And I just literally gave a virtual keynote and I got a review or a testimonial from someone. She's like, Marli, to be honest, I don't even remember what you said, but you made me feel amazing. You made me feel like I could do anything. You made me feel unstoppable. I feel like I'm out of this rut that I've been in all summer. And she was like, it wasn't what you said. It was how you said it. It was your tone. It was your eye contact. It was your presence. It was your energy. It was your and people, no one wants to be told what to do. They want a model of what is possible for them. So all I get to do in that moment is show up and be the fullest version of myself. I can talk about how to be the most fully alive, fully expressed version of yourself, point 1, point 2, point 3, or I could just be that. And people will resonate with your energy. I think a lot of people spend a lot of time worrying about what they're going to say. And so it's like, how do I, not spend just as much time in like, how do I want to feel and how do I want to make my audience feel? Because that is the thing that they will remember the most. So I'll say that. And the other thing is, so here's some like hot tips. Who here has ever? Raise your hand if you want to walk away feeling ready to accomplish anything? Who, or like, sometimes I start my talk, I have this whole little like bit that I do. It's like, I hear voices, not those sixth sense kind of voices, but those voices. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I don't know enough. Who the hell am I? Raise your hand so that I know that I'm not alone if you've ever heard one of those voices. And then even sometimes in either virtual or live, what are your voices? And then share in the chat, unmute yourself. And so instead of like, so then what are those voices? And I'm just kind of walking you through some of the, so who here, or raise your hand if, and then what's the impact of that? How does that impact you? And again, I can have them turn to a partner, share in the chat. I feel, and then so in the virtual world that we're living in, I feel drained, depressed. So is that a place that we want to create from? Yes or no? Type yes or no in the chat. Like, I am in there. We are having so it's like, instead of, again, this transactional presentation, I am creating a conversation. So who here's ever heard this? What's the impact of it? What if I told you there's another way? Something else is possible. I was talking to a group of writers actually, and I was like, guess what, everybody? That story is bullshit. And you get to rewrite one. You get to write your own story. So like, what's the story that you want to replace with the I'm not good enough, or whatever? Like, if you could crush or at least diminish one of those voices in your head, what would it be? What's the one story you want to just like release its grip on you, so to speak, right? And so I'm gonna give you a prompt, and I'm gonna have you fill in the blank. So prompts are great. The truth is, I do know what the heck I'm doing. The truth is, my message is valuable to share with the world. The truth is this. Like, so then I'm reading what their statements are. Share in the chat. Unmute yourself, right? Now, what's possible from that place? What action do you think you would take from there? So again, instead of me saying, here's the top 3 ways that people get in their own way, and here's what you could do about it, I'm helping them tune into where they're stuck, what's in their way, write their own the truth is statement, and then say like, oh, what actions would I take? I would actually send the manuscript in. I would actually write more. I would actually, whoa, we're not doing what we're not doing because we don't know what to do. We're not doing what we want to do because there's something up here that's in the way. So that is like, those are a few kind of layers. And then always at the end, I create space for what is your 1 degree shift? What's based on our time that we've had today, what's one thing that you are going to do differently? Or one action you're committed to taking in the next 24 hours? You're sharing. We're going to support and accountability right here. Like, what's the thing you're going to do in the next 24 hours, the next week, and the next month, and the next year that's going to move the needle forward? So that's the transfer piece at the end of having them connect the dots. Out of all the things we talked about today, all the things we did, what's the one thing that's going to make the biggest difference for you? So share your golden nugget, share your aha, share your thing.
Yeah.
So those are
great examples. Thank you very much. And I think people get the energy of you more through that too. I just was remembering, I think the first time that I met you, I heard you speak at a networking event in Portland. Pretty sure it was Power, because
I think so.
Power is an awesome networking event in Portland led by our dear friend, Aaron Vanderkoy. If anyone's in the Pacific Northwest, it's worth a trip for sure. And some of the events are virtual, so you can come from anywhere. But in that, it was like a 12-minute, 15-minute talk. And you challenged everyone in the room to come up with one action step they were going to do. And then you paused your talk to make us do that thing right then, or to ask someone in the room for help or something. I think I got a client from that. I think I got a podcast guest from that. Like, there was so much movement happening in that room in that moment. I was just dumbfounded. I was so awestruck, because that's the truth. If we recognize that there is an action we know to take, and we're given a moment where the pressure's on, take that stinking action right now. So many people got gears moving in that moment that it was amazing. So I just wanted to acknowledge that and say, yes, we fear, I think, especially people who are starting out and maybe don't have big audiences of people, we fear that blank space because we feel like we're supposed to fill it. We feel like maybe people won't enjoy it or will be on the spot. and it's uncomfortable, and it's okay. People are actually really ready to fill that gap when you create space for them to. And even if there's only a couple people in your workshop, they're going to be excited to be engaged with still.
And your energy when you introduce an exercise or an activity is everything. I've been in workshops where it's like, you can tell that facilitator is uncomfortable, because the reason people don't lead interaction is they're worried no one's going to do it. And so they project their fear onto their audience. I've actually legit heard people say, now we're going to do that really uncomfortable thing where you have to turn to your neighbor and introduce yourself. And it's like, you didn't need to say that. It was their own discomfort in it versus who here came to meet someone new? Awesome. Right. You're going to turn to someone you don't know yet, introduce yourself, da 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 da, boom, ready, set, go. That's a different energetic container that I'm holding that space. And the other piece that I didn't mention is I always set community agreements, usually at the beginning of like anything that I do. And I can make it as simple as be open, open heart, open mind, here to learn something new, be present, be fully here, be engaged, be all into this experience, and have fun. Are you down? Self high five. Boom, let's go. And then, I can unpack that even more, but it's like setting the tone of this will be an interactive learning experience. And sometimes I'm like, I apologize to the introverts in the room, but you're going to get through it and you're going to get something out of it. I promise you.
And they do
might be a little fun, comfortable, but you're going to make it.
Absolutely. And I will say I don't want to go too deep into the science because I don't know the exact science of it, but I've been studying transformational leadership events for many years now. And there's so many layers to why that kind of engagement increases the experience and increases the impact of the work that you're doing. It's not just so that that person feels connected to you. It's also building community in the room. And it's also making it so much easier to like take a stand for yourself to move forward when you suddenly realize you're part of a collective that's moving, and then it's easy to move. Yeah. It's no longer you pushing against the wall of your life. It's you moving with this like beautiful community of people who are moving forward in that way. And transformation gets easier when you're not the only one who's trying to do it. So there's a lot of layers to that. And of course, people are listening better when they're being engaged with and they have to interact because their brain can't go to sleep in the same way.
It's part of adult learning theory, which is like what part of my degree is in. It's like, how do adults learn? And it is part of that interaction and engagement. It honors people's previous knowledge and experience. So when you're teaching adults, they're not a blank slate. And oftentimes adult learners are at choice learners, meaning they've chosen to be in that room versus kiddos who are like, I am forced to be here. So there's just that engagement is really an honoring of their own life experience that they're bringing to the table.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I'm just noticing the time, and golly, I haven't had an episode go by that fast in a while. So tell us, everyone, Camp Yes is a big deal, and Marli's been doing it for a while. And tell us what the F Camp Yes even is.
I dig it. Camp Yes is a 4-day transformational leadership experience for women entrepreneurs, leaders, and change makers. So essentially, it's a summer camp. It's a playground of possibility. And it's really helping you tap into your personal power through play. And when we talk about leadership too, it can feel very heavy. It can feel very serious. And one of the rules at camp is if you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong. Meaning like we get to make up the rules. And one of the moments at Camp Yes that I feel like really describes the experience is this woman got done going down this like 350-foot slip and slide. And she comes up to me with like tears of joy in her eye. And she said, I never knew how healing play could be. And
that gave me goosebumps.
It was profound in that moment for me, because we think as play being this kind of, I don't have time for that, or it's very elusive, or it's like light and fluffy kind of thing. And the depth of play, how deep joy can be. We talk about vulnerability, being in your joy, being in your bliss is vulnerable. So it's like, can I expand my ability to receive being joyful, being happy, being blissed out, laughing until I cry, like just totally being embodied in who I am. And when I think about summer camp, I think about it's like the time in your life where you like made your best friend, your camp counselor was like the coolest person ever. It's like a space where you felt seen, where you didn't have to worry about your hair or your makeup, or like, not that I wear that, but like for people to be their true self and to take risks and to be bold and to try out new things and to explore. And as kiddos, we're given that opportunity. And, you know, one of the things that we're taught about play as little humans is you can play when all the work is done.
Mm.
And my friends, all of the work will never be done. And yet we take that belief into our life and we don't play. And so even if you're crushing it, you're super successful, we wonder why we're not fulfilled, or we wonder why we don't have energy. It's not because we're not managing our time, it's because we aren't doing the things that bring us joy a lot of the time. Or how do I make the things that I have to do into get tos? And I have to cook dinner versus I get to cook dinner and I get to listen to my favorite podcast or my favorite music or whatever. So how do we weave joy and play into our life every single day? And what's possible when we create our goals from that place, our vision from that place, when we create a business from that place? It is this, yeah, like I said, it's a playground of possibility. So awesome. That's what Camp Yes is. And this will be the 4th year of camp. And it is happening this September 2nd through 5th, Labor Day weekend. And if you're not able to make it this year, we'd love to get you on the yes list for next year. And we're just going to keep, you know, creating these amazing, incredibly impactful, transformational experiences.
Yeah. And I will say secondhand referral here that I've seen some people go to Camp Yes and they are different after.
Yeah.
There are people who show up to Camp Yes who I've seen them before and then seen them after. And it's almost like they've blossomed in some way, like they've broken that shell off and they're now who they truly are. And I know that everybody's on their own healing journey, and especially the people that we interact with in the power community, that everybody's transforming and evolving all the time. But I know that part of that shift has happened for certain people that I know from that Camp Yes experience. So 100% recommend Camp Yes, even though I have yet to make it there because I've usually been at Burning Man or somewhere else.
Yeah.
But I hope someday, I hope to get there. And for anybody out there, it's not too late. We'll try to get this episode out as soon as possible, but it's not too late to go to Camp Yes and to drop what you're doing Labor Day weekend and make that happen. Because if this is calling to you, don't wait. If this is calling to you, make it happen. Do whatever the fuck it takes to become the you that you're meant to become.
Hell yeah.
How do people get a hold of you? We will put the link to your website, of course, or to Camp Yes, or to both in the show notes so people have it. But what's the best place for people to find you and follow you and get in touch?
Yeah, for sure. So you can go on Instagram, and my handle is at Marli Williams, Marli Williams. So Instagram's a great place to connect. And then, yeah, all the websites we'll have in there, but camp-yes.com is for Camp Yes, and then marliwilliams.com. And you can also find me on Facebook as well. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Any last words of wisdom you want to leave people with? You dropped a lot of wisdom today.
I want to leave you with a question, which is, what does saying yes mean to you? And what would be possible if you did?
Powerful.
So I'll leave you with that.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Marli. I so appreciated this conversation. I haven't gone over on an episode in kind of a while, so this was really fun. It went by so fast. I mean,
thank you so much for having me.
But yeah, you have so much wisdom to share, and I'm so grateful that you're out there doing your work in your way for your people, and that whatever university that was for, they didn't get you because the world needed you in a bigger way. So thanks for doing your work and showing up. And all you listeners out there, thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to go to wildheartsraiseup.com/podcasts, or you can go to, I think that's the best place. But check out more details about this episode and share it with a friend. If you haven't shared this podcast already, you probably know another inspiring leader who could hear Marli's message and resonate. And whatever happens, keep asking big questions and taking bold action, because you are here for a reason. Bye.
Bye.